All right, folks, Bibi's plan for Gaza is out. And unsurprisingly, uh, he's not going to be returning to the pretense of home rule anytime soon. As I think everyone should have expected by this point, the plan is for the permanent military occupation of Gaza. And honestly, if Israel were, let's say, a different country, I think they could actually get away with this and it could work out well. But knowing Israel, this is not going to work out well. It is going to be a disaster because everything that Israel has done regarding Gaza has been a disaster. Because unlike a lot of people, I think this, I think democracy is pretty overrated in terms of, I think it's a placebo. I don't expect to get much pushback on that, from people who subscribe to this channel. But I know that the Western world and various governments, including the government of Washington, are going to be quite perturbed at this. And I think the only reason for that is that they know it will make it harder for them to defend Israel because, it's better for them PR-wise to have some kind of Palestinian face as, the titular leader of Gaza. And interestingly enough, there is a plan in time, at least this is what they're saying, that the Israelis would like to select some kind of person in Gaza to be, the head of the local administration. But I think the idea explicitly is for this to be a puppet regime. So yes, you have, someone from Gaza who is running things day to day, but they are doing it, they're running Gaza, for the sake of Israel. This person's job would be to protect Israeli interests. And again, if Israel had any idea on how to promote stability, this could work out. There is a universe where this, where this could be done if you were talking about a different country, not Israel and not Palestinians, if it was just some fictional country and some fictional population that wanted nothing to do with them. But Israel has proven incapable of creating stability in the Arab majority areas going back to Israel's founding. Israel's only solution to promoting peace has been to expel Arabs. And it is in the areas where they have expelled these people, driven them from their homes, and sent them off into refugee camps where they lived in tents for decades. That has been the only way that Israel knows how to achieve peace. And so you can blame the Palestinians for that all you want. I am not, at least today, I'm not passing a value judgment as far as that's concerned. I don't, discussed, many people, including myself, discussed that history ad nauseum. And so when we're talking about the objective reality here, fault or blame doesn't really matter. It is a fact that Israel has been unable to tame Gaza. And so there is no reason for me to believe, based on anything that they've put out in this plan, that Israel will be able to tame Gaza anytime in the future. In fact, under this new order, I think it would be safe to assume that there will be more resentment for Israel harbored by Gazans than ever. Because this plan is going to make their lives worse than it has ever been. Israel is explicitly saying they will not permit buildings to be rebuilt in Gaza, meaning these people are going to continue to be homeless. Israel has leveled, the last count I heard was half of all buildings in Gaza were demolished just by bombs, completely gone. And so these people are homeless. These are, the vast majority of them, people who had nothing to do with any of the fighting, who certainly have no influence over politics, because, of course, Gaza, it's not like they have a political system. As I've discussed in the past, they had one election in 2005 that was set up by the Israelis. Hamas won a plurality in 2005, and, there was never any election after that. And so Israel is going to punish the whole of the population for, quite literally, the crimes of very few people. This is almost, although not quite as absurd, as when some guys from Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and I think Jordan flew a couple of planes into the World Trade Center, and the United States decided that this was a good excuse to kill 1 million Iraqis. At least the people who Israel is mad at were actually from Gaza. So I guess they got the nationality right, but they are still targeting and terrorizing people who had absolutely nothing to do with it. And so Israel has condemned these people to continue to live in tents or out in the open on the streets, under trees, wherever you can find, on park benches, if there are any park benches left, until Israel feels that they have de-radicalized the population. Well, I'll tell you this, if Israel is not going to allow these people to rebuild their homes, who have lost everything, the Israelis will not allow them to rebuild their homes until Israel feels that they've been de-radicalized. These folks are never going to be de-radicalized. They're going to be increasingly radicalized, because they are not even permitted to build shelter, the most basic human need. And so if you didn't already want to destroy Israel, how could you not at that point? Once Israel is there telling you, and they're beating you down and saying, no, we're not going to let you stack up these bricks and try to put a roof over your head. We need to de-radicalize you first. I can't imagine any more of a radicalizing experience. And so the situation in Gaza is going to become even more unstable. Now, perhaps what the Israelis are thinking is that, well, it doesn't matter if these people hate us more than ever, as long as, if we are able to establish some kind of a police state in Gaza, we will be able to police them strongly enough to prevent any sort of plots against us. They will not be able to arm themselves, and they can be as mad as they want and as happy as they want, but they won't be able to stand up against us. And perhaps that is the case. Perhaps Israel will be able to construct a police state that is thorough enough to make sure that these people actually don't have any guns, don't have any knives, aren't able to build any sort of bombs. Personally, I'm not someone who thinks that gun control really works. I don't think it's very successful. I think that people ultimately are going to get guns if they want to have guns. The only places that gun control works, I think, are places where people don't want to own guns to begin with. And the few people who do want them, like, you go to a place like Japan where no one has any guns. Well, guess what? The Yakuza, they got guns. You know why? They're the only people in society who want them. It doesn't matter if it's illegal or not. The same thing with drugs. You think that if prohibition was really a suitable tactic for engineering your society, that we would have addiction problems across the United States? How can there be all these heroin addicts? Heroin is illegal. And so I think that Israel is doomed to fail here, because obviously their de-radicalization plan is a non-starter. It's not going anywhere. It's going to make things much worse. But their demilitarization plan, if you're unable to de-radicalize these people, the demilitarization is what becomes most important, because you have to keep them pinned down. I think they're going to find ways around that. Now, maybe I'm wrong. You know what? Maybe we'll revisit this topic in 5 years and see that Gaza has been completely demilitarized. The people there are angry, completely unhappy, but the place is safe because the Israeli police are able to really keep an iron grip on the population. If they're able to do that, I will try and remember this video and admit my mistake. But just going based on governments in the past, this sort of a tactic usually is not that effective. You need a compliant society in order for a police state like this to really work. You need to have some kind of incentive for compliance. And I don't think that the Israelis are smart enough to institute that. I don't think that they're going to create a choice for the average Gazan. Here's how you would, it's the very easy way, for them to tame Gaza. Create an incentive structure where the average individual person in Gaza has a choice that they themselves can make, not some some sort of meta choice that, well, Gaza as a society chose terrorism. Stop it. You're never going to win that way, and the Israelis know it. I think that was Bibi's intention, was to alienate all of Gaza. But now he's saying our goal is to tame Gaza and de-radicalize them. Well, then you need to give them a choice, a binary choice. You need to incentivize their obedience. Make it easy for them to choose obedience. Make their life comparatively easy. Say, okay, if you do as we say, and you salute the Israeli flag, and you pledge allegiance to the Star of David, we'll give you food and shelter. And if you don't do that, and you act up, and you spread thoughts of rebellion and independence, well, then we're not going to feed you, and you're going to have to live in the dirt, and we're going to take away your tent. Obviously, from a human rights standpoint, that would be a great tragedy. It would be beyond evil. But it could be effective. I don't think that Israel cares about what the rest of the world thinks. I think that Israel is trying to achieve its goals by any means necessary. I think they've made that abundantly clear. But the problem that Israel faces is that they can't bring themselves to see any Arab as human. They hate every last one of them, and so they make it impossible for any Arab to support them. They make life unlivable for anyone who is born an Arab within Israel's borders. Or, I should say, outside of Israel's de jure borders, but within Israel's de facto borders, meaning Gaza and the West Bank. Within Israel proper, they do a good job of making the Arabs submissive and compliant, and making them into true second-class citizens by, giving them a pretty good life, though not as good as, not all of the rights and entitlements of a Jew, but still a good life worth living that they're not very likely to rebel against, because they got things pretty good. But if you're in Gaza or the West Bank, you have absolutely nothing to live for. And so perhaps I'm wasting my time even talking about how Israel could subjugate these people properly, because the goal, I guess, has never been subjugation. It's been just trying to drive these people out. They successfully subjugated the, what is it, like 20% minority within Israel proper. And they're comfortable with that level of Arab population, but there's just frankly too many of them for Israel's liking in Gaza and the West Bank. They want those people gone. But then again, I mean, there is just too many, and the population of Gaza has been going up, over the decades, not down. And so even if that was their goal, they're still failing. So, you know what? You drop me into Netanyahu's office in, where is it, Jerusalem or Tel Aviv? Where's his actual office? I assume it's in Jerusalem, since he makes such a big deal about moving all the embassies to Jerusalem. But I know that the IDF, their big headquarters is in Tel Aviv, I believe. You put me in Netanyahu's chair, and my goal is the same as his, to try and take best advantage of this situation and create some sort of long-lasting win for Israel. This isn't what I necessarily would. This isn't what I want. This is what I would think if I were in the shoes of an Israeli leader. How do I best take advantage of this situation and make it actually benefit me? Well, you've already driven the population of Gaza into the southern tip. So you wall those people in tighter. You don't let them return to their homes, because, of course, that is the Israeli tradition. Once you drive someone out, then you annex their villages and don't let them back. So I would think that would be something that Israel would want to do. So you take Gaza City, make that Israeli. Even if there's a couple of Arab stragglers left there, there's few enough to where, the new Israeli population that moves in will completely overwhelm them, and it won't affect Israeli politics. So you shrink Gaza, and then you take what's left of it, and yes, you demilitarize it, you institute, what you would do is start training a security force that is loyal to Israel, that is trained by the IDF, and is made up of locals. Second, you dump as much money in there as possible to house all of these destitute people as quickly as possible. You send in enough food to keep them comfortable. You let the doctors go back. You don't shut down all of the doctors and the relief agencies. You don't do that, certainly. You send them back in. You make sure that all of these people who are refugees are treated well. And you make them dependent on your aid. And so that's how you have the best shot. Now, at this point, I think people are going to be so enraged by Israel that probably still wouldn't work. You would probably still have a lot of unrest. There would be a lot of resistance. But you push these people into a tighter area down in Rafah. And you make the best effort to signal to the rest of the world that you are doing what you can to make these people comfortable and provide for them. And that way, the next time that they lash out, it's very easy for you to blame them. You say, you know what, we had this war. We tried to put it behind us. We tried to help them rebuild, even though we didn't start the war. And then they went and attacked us again. It's much harder for the Palestinians to look like victims when the Israelis are outwardly doing everything they can to try and help them rebuild. The opposite is true if the Israelis explicitly are saying that these people are not allowed to rebuild and that they have to live in tents and that we will never let them, rebuild their society. And of course, optics aside, you have no chance of winning over any of the population and making them compliant, because they have no incentive to. Yes, even if you give an incentive for people to comply, you say, okay, you'll get housing, you'll get food, you'll get water. Even with those incentives, you will still have a lot of people who are, angry and prideful, who will not give in, who will not just submit. And those people will have to be dealt with differently. Again, none of this is an endorsement. I don't want to make it sound like I am some crazy authoritarian. I'm not. I'm just saying, if you were to do this, how would you achieve the best results? And I think a big sticking point will be the annexation of Gaza City, just because that would be so blatant. Perhaps they would have a better chance at winning some people over if Israel didn't do that. Sure, you occupy the whole thing. Occupy all of Gaza. But perhaps don't directly annex Gaza City and start moving in the Jewish population to replace the Arabs who were expelled. Maybe then you'd have a chance at creating some stability if you actually allowed Gaza City itself to be rebuilt. And, there's outside Arab money that is willing to invest that. I mean, look at how rich, a lot of these Arab countries are. And if Israel officially occupies Gaza, they will not be able to blame Hamas for saying, well, Hamas turned down all this money. Stop, But here's the thing. Israel only has Hamas to blame because Israel wants to have Hamas to blame. That has always been the case. Israel has been the entity propping up Hamas from the beginning. And I didn't used to know that, but until I heard Netanyahu himself explicitly say so. But all this talking about what Israel could do, it feels like a waste of time, because I know they're not going to do any of this. Not just because Netanyahu came out and stated explicitly in this plan what they are going to do, but just because I know it's not in their nature. I think about, could I imagine IDF soldiers, treating, occupying Gaza and treating these people like, victims of a war rather than vermin? No, because IDF soldiers treat these people like animals, all of them, down to every last man, woman, and child. And so I guess I'll leave it off there, and I will see you folks back here in the next one.